Okay, hello, thanks a lot for inviting me, thanks for coming here. I am Serhii Plokhy, I am professor in the Department of History and director of the Ukrainian Research Institute. It's over there. The title of the book is Atoms and Ashes, A Global History of Nuclear Disasters. And the first question that I will try to answer is how one ends up writing histories of nuclear disasters. Before this book, I wrote a book on Chernobyl of 1986. That was very much a personal story. I come from Ukraine. I am a historian of Ukraine and Soviet Union. And I wrote a book that was received quite well. And then the reaction that I got was on a number of kinds, mostly positive, very positive, but there were also questions of the sort that, well, it's wonderful that you did that, and that you described how the Soviet Union was involved in cover-up and so on and so forth. But do you really think that our governments here in the West actually behave differently or would behave differently? And I paused, I didn't know the answer. Another question was, okay, it looks like you are really arguing against the use of nuclear energy. Or by pointing finger at the Soviet government and the way how it mishandled the whole thing, you're really trying to say that the nuclear industry here in the West is fine and okay. And I didn't know what to say to that, because that was not the set of questions that I dealt with as a historian of the Soviet Union or as someone who was affected by the Chernobyl disaster. And I decided to write a new book and answer those questions for myself and for others as well. And that's the Atoms and Ashes. That's where that book came from. I focused on 6 largest nuclear disasters, and there are 6 chapters in the book. Each of them, one is dedicated to the Castle Bravo, the first test of the hydrogen bomb that went too well. The yield was 2.5 times what they expected. There was a enormous nuclear fallout, contamination. The local population of the Pacific Islands was affected. They evacuated it, and so on and so forth. Then in 1957, a spent fuel tank exploded in the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union, the so-called Kishtim disaster. A few weeks later, the Windscale fire in the United Kingdom. In 1979, the 3 Mile Island here in the United States, 86 Chernobyl, in 2011 Fukushima. With 5 out of 6 disasters, it was very easy for me to choose them because I just looked at the table of the worst nuclear disasters, and they were right there. So my innovation was to bring in the 1954 Castle Bravo disaster, because normally it's not listed there, because it's considered to be a purely military. But for me, that was an important way, actually, to talk about all these nuclear disasters as one way or another related to the military stage of the development of nuclear industry as a whole. Today, there are 400 plus-minus reactors out there in the world. None of them was created specifically to boil water. All of them are some form of, in one way or another, they follow the basic design that was developed for the military purposes, either for production of the enriched uranium and plutonium, or for the powering nuclear submarines. And this military origins of the nuclear industry, it's really with us today. And on that level, all 6 disasters, they have the footprint of the military origins and productions. The distinction between atoms for peace and atoms for war is really created back in the 1950s with the main goal of sell to the American public the idea of building more atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs to show that the atoms actually can produce and can do good things as well. They not only cause destruction. And that military origins, it really manifests itself in the nuclear industry afterwards. First of all, it's a culture of secrecy. What I discovered that really the instincts of the governments, the instincts of the people involved in that, corporations and so on and so forth, is one and the same, irrespective whether it's Japan, whether it's UK, United States, or the Soviet Union. So no one wants to actually deliver bad news. And the cover-up is, for a number of reasons, political, economic, and other reasons, that is what is happening. And that was helped also by the origins of the industry in the military. The 3 Mile Island, there is also the case that the operators trained in the American Navy actually are trained to run small reactors and react to any problems with the big reactor, the way how they would react to the problems at the submarine, and so on and so forth. So despite the fact that there is a lot in common in the way how we, as societies, as institutions, react to the nuclear disasters anywhere in the world, there are also clear differences as well. And one thing that I sort of knew even before writing this book, but what I really confirmed, that the Soviets were able to get away with the murder when it comes to the cover-up. The full control of the media, the full control of the information space, of course, is the reason why the Kishtim disaster, one of the most deadly disasters on this scale, one of the 5 top disasters, we didn't know about it until late 1980s. So 30 or 35 years it was completely hidden from the society. Now to the question of what do I think about as the result of doing this research, what I think about the future of the nuclear industry. Well, one thing is that I am absolutely sure that there will be accidents in the future. Each new accident, there is a learning curve, but each new accident actually comes from the area, from the place from which we didn't expect it to come. This book that you see there, it's a paperback. It has a new edition and new conclusion, and edition and conclusion is about or parts added to the introduction is about the war in Ukraine hitting the nuclear sites, including the largest in Europe, something that I didn't expect, no one expected to happen when I sent this book to printers for the hardcover. Thank you for your attention.